Hello, Bobby Torres of Frightbox Recording here. Now, over the past few years, while running this YouTube channel, I have people sending me their mixes all of the time. And one of the most common complaints or common concerns is that they say that their final mixes sound like demo quality. And no matter what they do, no matter what mixing trick they try, no matter which hack they implement, their final mixes never sound like a pro record. And again, they're often referring to their mixes as budget or demo quality mixes. In other words, productions that clearly sound like they were done in a bedroom or a home studio. So with that being said, I've decided to put this video together to dwindle it down to the 3 main problems that I see happening over and over and over again. In other words, 3 mistakes that you're probably making if you run into this issue yourself when producing your music in your home studio. So if you're someone that's not happy with your mixes and you think it's a mixing issue, which it might be, pay close attention to all 3 of these mistakes, and I really think you're gonna be surprised by the 3rd one. All right, so the first mistake that I hear constantly when people are not happy with their mixes is simple, and it actually has nothing to do with mixing. It's that they clearly neglected to pay close attention to details during the actual tracking of their song or music. I have a lot of examples that I can give, but let me give you a few common ones. Number 1, pitchy guitars. Guitars that are clearly not 100% in tune, especially when guitar players play high up on the neck. You have to get this right at the source. There's nothing in the world in the mix that's going to fix this if your guitars are out of tune when recording, and I hear this all of the time. I also hear a lot of bass tracks that are pitchy and out of tune. Go listen to any modern produced metal or rock track and try to find out of tune guitars and out of tune bass. Good luck. And when people send me these mixes, I ask myself, did they even tune their guitars before recording this? Also, pitchy vocals. There's no excuse to have pitchy vocals on a recording when we have tuning software available to us. There are even free options out there. Another thing I hear a lot are programmed drums that were programmed poorly, and they sound nothing like a real drummer. People will send me their mixes that they've done in the box using MIDI drums and amp sims, and will say, my drum software sucks, it doesn't sound realistic. And the first thing I ask them is, well, did you spend time programming your MIDI to reflect the performance of a real drummer? There's no magic bullet answer here. There's no mix trick in the world that's going to solve this. You have to get your tracks right at the source, and you have to pay close attention to detail. A few other examples within this category. Guitar performances that are not aggressive enough. If you're not digging into the strings, you're not gonna have a heavy tone. I don't care how great your amp sim is and how nice your guitar is. You have to play with aggression. And the same goes for bass tracks, and the same goes for drum tracks if you're recording live drums. People will often send me tracks to mix that they tracked at some studio, and the drummer is hitting like a wuss. And you know what I have to do? I have to completely replace all the drums and use samples, which I am not a fan of, but I have to do it because the drummer is not playing with enough intensity. Again, if you're worried about your mix not sounding professional, pay close attention to the details in the tracking phase and editing phase. Again, 99.9% of the time when people complain about their mixes sounding like demo quality, this is an issue that's there without fail. Okay, issue number 2 that I hear all of the time is people overcomplicating the mixing process and also overcomplicating the production as a whole by adding too many tracks that don't belong in the production. It is clear as day to me when someone has gone in and boosted 5 million dB of high end on a sampled kick drum, or overly EQ'd their guitars searching for problem frequencies, or over EQ'd the master bus, used really cheesy stereo wideners on the mix, which actually makes your mixes sound more narrow, ironically enough. And of course, dozens of vocal layers that don't belong, guitar parts that make 0% sense in an effort to make up for a lackluster recording or mix, or just overdoing it with drum samples and blending 20 different snare samples in trying to find the perfect snare sound. The truth is, you do not need a million tracks to create a huge sounding production. You just need a few strategically recorded tracks that help support the arrangement and the song, that will in turn make the mixing process so simple and you won't have to reinvent the wheel. Most of your favorite mixes are actually really basic. They're just well balanced, the tracks were all captured properly, and yes, this can even be done in a home studio. Gear is irrelevant, it's the process. The worst for me is back when I would mix a lot of local bands that would send me their tracks to mix. They would expect miracles when I'd get a million guitar tracks that aren't labeled, and again, were just recorded haphazardly for no reason at all. A million vocal tracks, overly complex exported tracks from their drum software. It's a nightmare, believe me. That's why I don't do it anymore. These days, I'll really only mix something that I tracked myself or a professional tracked. And it's for this reason. You cannot polish something that was not recorded and produced properly in the first place. And again, don't confuse this with needing expensive preamps or gear. That's a complete myth. It is the process that's important. So keep this in mind when you're struggling with your next mix. Ask yourself, was this tracked properly? Am I overcomplicating the mix with fancy trickery instead of just focusing on balance? Again, if you have a well-recorded song, simple panning and level should get you pretty damn far in the mixing phase. All right, here comes number 3, the big one. And unfortunately, it's becoming more and more common for some reason. I don't really know why. It's you're trying to mix a song that's not done in the first place. I get this almost every single day. Somebody will email me their mix saying, hey, critique my mix. And I'll press play and I just hear easy drummer and a couple guitar tracks. No bass, no vocals, not even a complete song, just like 2 riffs. You cannot mix something that's not complete. Again, if you're lacking bass guitar and you don't have a fully fleshed out arrangement and your drums are just a drum loop that you didn't even program to match the riffs, what are you actually mixing? You have to remember that when you listen to a professionally produced track, usually there was pre-production involved. Every single kick pattern was strategically picked to reflect the riffs and to work with the song. There are vocals, which you have to remember are the most important element of any production because the average listener mainly only listens to vocals, not guitars. I hate to break it to you. I know it hurts. I'm a guitar player as well, but it's the truth. And if you're recording instrumental music, you need to have a melody line that's going to take the place of a vocal. Listen to any great instrumental track and you will hear that. A couple riffs recorded the easy drummer is not a song, and it's going to be impossible to mix and to have sound like your favorite record when again, the actual product isn't even complete, i.e. the song. Yeah, for some reason, this has become very, very common. I hear it all the time. People will ask me to critique a mix when there's nothing to even mix. Now, if you do not own a bass guitar and you're a guitar player, there are great bass plugins out there like Easy Bass. And of course, we all have access to great MIDI drum software as well, so you don't even need a full band. And you should really be focusing on songwriting, not on mixing. That comes later. So there you have it. These are the 3 things that I hear almost every single day when people will send me their mixes to critique. It's a lack of attention to detail in the production phase, overcomplicating the production and mixing process, and also trying to mix something that isn't even a song in the first place, or a completed song. Now here's the thing, just because so many of us are making these mistakes, it doesn't mean that you have to be making these mistakes. I want you to save time and money by producing the results that you really want using the gear that you already have. And because of this, I've put something together called my Polish Production Checklist. It outlines the entire recording and mixing process as a whole, so you could focus on what's essential and what's important for producing pro-level results, again, using the gear that you already have. Because we all know by now, or we should, gear is irrelevant. It's your system and process that you follow that yields professional sounding results. Believe me, I'm living proof of it. Again, the Polish Production Checklist is absolutely free right now, and you can have direct access right now by clicking the link below in this video's description. So I'm curious to know, are you guilty of any one of these 3 mistakes? Are you guilty of all 3 of them? Let me know by leaving a comment in the comment section below. I'd love to hear what you've been up to in your home studio. If you found this video helpful, like, comment, subscribe, and share. And don't forget to click the little bell icon so you can be notified every time I upload one of my weekly videos on all things metal and rock production. Until next time, you know what Alina would say. Happy mixing.